Hello, I'm Karen and welcome to the fourth and final part of making the Petite slippers. Well, what we're going to do with this, we've got the long thread that we said to leave behind. In the stitch at the side of it, I want you to put your hook through there, and then we're going to go through the work into the same spaces that we've already done the purple piece. And we're going to cast on. We need to pull that stitch really tight, and then we're going to work from through the actual tongue and into each of the stitches all the way around, just by doing a slip stitch. And we're just going to slip stitch the tongue to the actual base. When you actually start at this point, it doesn't look like it's going to fit, but honestly, because you've done all the correct amount of stitches, it does fit, and it fits really nicely. And I'm so glad that I made two at the same time, because when I was just making the last video, I started to do this and I'd actually got right near the end of my video and I made a silly mistake, and to me it felt like I spoilt my video, so I've had to start all over again. But never mind, hey ho, that's such is life. So all we're doing is just literally marrying all these stitches up and stitching this together. The reason why I didn't want to use this slipper was because I've actually got inside the thread is like a dark piece of thread that's gone into my white, and I was really disappointed. But unfortunately I have no choice but to use this slipper, because the other one is already made up now, because I'd got right to the almost to the end of the videos. So we're going to, and then we pull this through this tail. I know it's extra long and I made it too long, but that's better to have it too long than not. So what we're going to do is we're going to just cut some of it off to be able to do, whoops, I've got myself all too many bits of yarn. So we're just going to sew in this part of the yarn, get this out of the way first. And what we do is we go through the actual last stitch there, through the last stitch through there, which has got the purple piece in it, pull that through and pull this so that this is nice and tight, and then we work into this particular row. You could go down further if you wanted to, but it's just I find it easier to work into this row there. Make sure that's nice and tight for that, because you're holding your tongue into the actual shoe. And then we just come back like I do with all my other stitching, just to make sure that that's all nice and secure and not going to come undone. And there we go. Now the next part is where I'm going to be adding the stripe around. So we need a piece of yarn which is approximately 40 inches long for the Petite slipper. Obviously the bigger the slipper the bigger it goes, and I remember that it's 40 for this and 60 on the 4-inch size. Right, so I know it seems to be an awful lot of thread, but you need to make sure that you've got plenty. You don't want to run out and then we're having to sew in tail after tail after tail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a back stitch. So I'm going to go in one, skip one, and come out of the other side, and that's going to be the basis of my stitching all the way around. So I'm going to cast on in the same way that I'm going to work, so that I know where I'm at, leaving myself a nice tail to sew in later. My thumb over the tail and hold that one out of the way. This is now my working piece. So I'm going to go in one side of my working piece and out the opposite side. So this is technically going to be the first stitch, just there. We want to make sure it's nice, but don't pull it too tight, because otherwise you're going to scrunch up your shoe and then you're going to reduce the size of it and you're going to make it too tight. But by doing this, stitching round here, this is thanks to my daughter that I've actually done this, because she said when I first made them that the gap looked too deep and she thought that the colour should drop down more, and by working this stitching round here it dropped the colour down and also gave what is apparently the famous strip around a Converse, which is where we can now lead on to the history of the Converse. And I went and did some research. I was really surprised by what I found. But anyway, the Converse actually did not originate in the US. Sorry, as much as they've made it famous, it didn't originate there. It originated in the UK as a sand shoe. And I'm just going to let you know, when you do this stitch here, this stitch is actually a bigger stitch where we've done our joining work and our chain of ones. So we end up with a slightly bigger stitch at the back. I suppose if I had thought about that before everything else, I could have altered it, but I didn't want to go back and re-alter my whole pattern for the sake of making that stitch be equal. Anyway, let's go back and do our history. Pardon me. Right, so in 1830 a sand shoe was designed, and the sand shoe was a leather bottom where this white bit is and the canvas top. And in 1870 the Liverpool Rubber Company patented their design, where they actually had the rubber bottom attached to the canvas top. Now when they joined the rubber bottom to the canvas top, they had a glue line all the way round, and so to cover up the glue line they put a strip all the way round. So that's how the strip came about. It was just realistically to make it look nice. It wasn't, and also to prevent the glue from coming undone or whatever. But that line looked like the plimsoll line and behaved in the same way as a plimsoll line on a boat. So if the water goes above the plimsoll line, your foot got wet, and the same on the boat, of the shoe and the boat. So that's where it originated from. And then in 1908, which is 22 years after the Rubber Company had already done all of their inventions, the Converse company, a shoe company, was founded in America. And at some point they began making the rubber bottoms, the canvas top with the lace holes and everything in it. And then in 2003 Nike, or Nike as the Americans may call it, Incorporated, bought Converse, but they kept Converse still being called Converse, even though they actually own the company. So at this point here, look, we're just going to be working in these holes that we made more defined when we was doing our slip stitching on. So Nike bought the company in 2003, and Nike, being Nike and having lots of money, used lots of advertising and used the famous people, all sorts of different things to make the Converse become even more popular, so that more and more people bought the Converse, because obviously they wanted to make a profit. Then we skip ahead to last year, 2014, and Nike took Skechers and some other well known in America companies, shoe companies, to court, saying that they weren't allowed to use this strip because it was their trademark. And they actually won, which I'm shocked about, so that now those other companies are not allowed to use the strip around the edge, which honestly is completely and utterly, in my opinion, unfair, because it originated in the UK and was a copycat design. So really it wasn't technically theirs to begin with to claim that they can, own that particular thing. So I think that they're in the wrong for doing that. That's my opinion. And I don't know whether the history was taken into account, which it should have done, because if it had have been, then I'm sure that they wouldn't have allowed Nike to actually say that that was theirs. But anyway, I'm using this strip or stripe around my shoes and my slippers because we are partially doing a copycat version by making a crochet version of a shoe, but also, like I said, my daughter said that the sole looked the white looked too big, and she said it'd look nicer if I dropped the colour down, and so by sewing this edge around, it drops that colour down to make it look more like the Converse. And I'm using Converse as a word because people obviously they want to crochet a Converse style slipper or a shoe. So that's because they actually like the design that was made. In the UK we call them plimsolls or pumps or high tops. So I don't know whether it's right or wrong. I'm really sure that Nike's not going to go and try and take me to court saying, actually you're not allowed to use that sewing bit round the edge there because that's representing our stripe which we're famous for. And I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, the Converse was the stars on the side. There's like the stars and the stripes, trying to make it become American or an Americanized version of something that began in the UK. And because I'm English and I'm in the UK, then I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to share it with everybody for free because it's a lovely, lovely, easy pattern. It looks so nice. And honestly, Nike, why don't you put some buttons on? Think about that. It's like I've said in my other videos, by having a lace-up shoe, you actually limiting the amount of people that can actually wear your shoes. So if you're disabled in any way or not an able body, I don't mean to be offensive, but like you could, like I said before, you could have had a stroke, you could have been in the war, you could have lost an arm, you could have been born without an arm. There's all sorts of different reasons why people can't tie shoelaces. Some people just don't ever, it could be mental. You mentally can't cope or whatever. I'm not being rude. I really am not. I got myself all in a tangle there, didn't I? That was because it was so long, and it's also it's like curved and gone curly as I've been doing it. But it's okay. I'm right near at the end now, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of some of this while I'm sewing this bit in. Do that way round. Oh, I am making it hard work, aren't I? When it doesn't need to be. But anyway, now we've had a bit of history on the Converse. Yeah, it was invented in the UK, a sand slipper in 1830, and it wasn't even made in America until after 1930. So, and to be fair, we should all share, because at the end of the day, if there's a world disaster, are Converse still going to be able to run their company? No, because they need electricity. Are we still going to be able to crochet? Yes. There we go. So and we can utilise, we don't even have to just crochet with yarn. We could actually use cottons, we can use recycled plastic. Crocheters are very, 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 very inventive. Use old clothes cut up. There's all sorts of different ways of making a strand of yarn. So I think that if you're nicely skilled and being able to crochet, should there happen to be a world disaster, which apparently should have happened yesterday, we should all be dead by now because the world's supposed to have been hit by an asteroid, which actually isn't arriving until today. And even then it's actually, was it 4.5 lunar distances away from Earth? So we don't really stick a chance of being hit. Okay, so there we are. We've actually got the little stripe all the way around, but as we can see, the slipper is still very, very soft and floppy. Now this bit's firmed up where we've got our nice stitching, but the actual sole is still floppy. You can choose to stop at this point. This is where a lot of the other Converse style slippers have actually stopped from, and but I'm not. I'm going to carry on now, and I'm going to make the additional sole, which is like going back to the very, very beginning of the pattern. I just need to get myself some more purple, my lilac-y purple colour. And we're going all the way back to the beginning. So in the very beginning we cast on, we did a chain of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Into the second chain 3 single crochets. That's 1, 2. We're going to do 3 single crochet. That's 1, 2 and 3. Well, because this yarn's so thin, it's really spread that out. Let's make it go wobbly. Into the next single crochet, into the next 2. So that's 1, 2, half double crochet into the next 2. That's 1, 2, double crochet in the next 2. 1, oops, daisy, that's not going very well, start that again. 2, and into the last we need to do 7 double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to tuck the tail under at 5, 5, 6 and 7. I'm just going to pull that a little bit tighter, not too much because I need to pull that back out. And now we need to do double crochet in the next 2. 1, I'll split the yarn there. 2, half double crochet in the next 2. 1, 2, single crochet in the next 2. 1, oopsie daisy, 2. If you remember, I used the back loop there to do 2 more single crochet, and slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet. So we've got the bowling pin shape, chain 1, working into the next, not the same but the next, work 2 half double crochet in the next, 1, 2, half double crochet in the next 7, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. I just need some more yarn. 2 half double crochet in the next 7, so that's 1 half double, 2 half double, 3 half double, 4 half double, 5 half double, 6 half double, 7 half double crochet in the next 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2 half double crochet in the next, that's 1, 2, ignore that one there, and slip stitch into the top of the first half double crochet. I'm going to pull that through there to get hold of the tail there, and then I'm going to pull that tight from that side, get my yarn again there, and now we're going to attach this to the bottom of the shoe that I've already got. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the hook back through the same space that we've just been working in, and we're going to match it up to the same space on the sole. We're just going underneath 1 loop on the sole and under 2 loops on the new sole. Yeah, so 2 loops into there, and then we've got to marry that up, that loop there, and slip stitch the new sole to the actual base underneath those loops that we didn't use when we was working our way up. Now when you come down this side is always the easiest side because you've got lots of manoeuvrability. When you're doing the opposite side, you need to stretch and manoeuvre the slipper about a bit. But see, as long as you marry all your stitches up, this works perfectly well all the way around. And also it gives you a nice little, if you can see that there, a nice little white, looking like a white stitched effect as you, and that's just this loop that you're working with, the way that that sits, it makes it appear to be a row of white stitching that you've sewn in, I suppose, but you actually haven't. So, and then once we've done this, the only thing left to do is either make the shoelaces, which is a chain of 80 for the petite, or sew on the buttons. Now I will say that when you sew on the buttons, we have to sew the buttons on the petite version right near the very edge of the actual tongue, otherwise it makes the shoe become too tight and narrow a fit. So just sort of let you know that bit because it's useful to know these things. So anyway, if you're bored and you're fed up and you want to go and you don't want to see what this bit looks like when I've done because you've seen my finished work already and now you've got the gist of it, then thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, thank you for your comments, I do hope that you've really enjoyed these, because honestly this has been, when I very first saw the question, like, can I actually do the Converse one, I was actually, to be fair, I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble, I don't think I can do that. But I'm not a person that likes to give in easily. At least I had a go, and when I was having a go, I did make a few bodgy ones, but they evolved, and this is how this came about. And here we are, whoopsie daisy, with another pattern to add to the collection. That maybe I should put them all in one book together. Maybe that would be nice. I don't know. If they're free on a video, would you really want it in a book? I don't know about that, but then it'd be nice to have it all written down nicely for my children as a family heirloom, I suppose. Alright, then we're right at the very end, just picking up that very last stitch. I hope I've stayed in shot all the time doing this, because I tend to bring it close to me because it's finer work, and I'm trying to focus. And I suppose when I get older I'll need even more support, I don't know. Anyway, all we have to do at this point now is sew in these tails. I hope you enjoyed the history of Converse. I hope it's made you think, if nothing else. I mean, I know that we can't necessarily always fight these giant corporation companies or whatever, but when something's wrong and we know it to be wrong, then it makes a difference. You know, and realistically, it's unfair of Nike to try and prevent another company from trying to make themselves a living, in my humble opinion, because I wouldn't try and stop somebody from trying to make a living, because we live in a world where we have to have money, which I personally think that we shouldn't have money. I think we should all do trade-offs like we used to do years ago, and trade things for things, and we should all be treated equally, and we should have the same sorts of facilities all the way around the world, so we should share that. But there we go. There, look, you see how much that's changed that from that flippy floppy. Here's my other one, look, with my flippy floppy bottom. It's all soft and thing, and it really firms it up by doing that, and it makes such a big difference, I think, just by doing that. I don't know whether I should sit and sew on the buttons in front of you. I'm sure that you've probably had enough now. It's been half an hour of this video, so I'll show you on this one. Remember that I said when you're sewing on the buttons, sew them so that they're right. The actual button will overhang slightly because it's quite a big button, but sew it right into the edge bit, because if you sew it further in, and also it's when you're looking at your rows, you've got your slip stitch row and then a stitch row, and then you've got the holes from where you've stitched into. It's that next row down there, because if you actually sew your buttons right at the very top, you sort of scrunch over the actual thing and it doesn't work properly. And also I chose just to do one lot of buttons because I didn't think that it needed any more. The shoe fits together nicely the way that it hangs over the actual tongue, because I know when you look at it like that, the tongue does look a bit weird because you've got like a space each side, but I did try using those stitches and making it a wider tongue, but then it wouldn't fit. It pushed the sides out. So I suppose I could do the shoelace. I'll just do one shoelace, even though I'm intending on putting buttons on this, just for no, I'm not going to do it. you know how to thread a shoelace. If you don't know how to thread a shoelace, then do the buttons, it's easier. Okay, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing. I really do hope that you've made your own little pair. I'm going to go and finish off the bottom of this, and I'm going to be adding buttons to mine, and then I'm going to put my feet up and have a nice cup of coffee before my children come home from school, and then I shall start preparing all my next lot of videos. Obviously this one needs uploading and everything else, and it needs all the write-up doing and blah 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 blah. But yeah, I'm going to be working it. To say the 4-inch comes next, and the increasing of the soles. So I do hope you've liked them. I'm sorry I waffle on. I really am awful chatterbox. But thanks again. Thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, favouriting and doing whatever else. And cool. Bye for now.